Look at somebody next to you and tell them, this year won't break me. Now tell yourself, I'm done thinking the way I used to think. Because hear me, nothing changes until your mind does. You've been praying for a breakthrough, but God's been waiting on a mindset shift. You've been asking for a new season, but carrying an old way of thinking into a new year, and you wonder why 2025 looked just like 2024, and 2024 looked just like 2023. I didn't come to motivate you today. I came to interrupt you, to shake you out of survival mode, to pull you out of small thinking, to tell you that 2026 is not asking for more effort, it's demanding a new perspective. If you think like you always thought, you'll live like you always lived. But if you make this shift, I promise you, everything changes. Some of you have been standing still not because you lack ability, not because you lack anointing, not because you lack opportunity, but because your mind has been trapped in two words. What if? What if? What if I fail? What if it doesn't work? What if they judge me? What if I lose what little I already have? And while you're busy negotiating with fear, time keeps moving, doors keep closing, and purpose keeps waiting on the other side of your hesitation. What if is the language of imagination without courage. It creates scenarios that haven't happened yet and convinces you they already have. It makes tomorrow's pain feel heavier than today's responsibility. It keeps you rehearsing disasters that never arrive, while blessings pass you by because fear always sounds logical when you let it speak long enough. But in 2026, there has to be a shift, not from thinking, but from fear-based thinking to faith-driven resolve. And that shift begins when you stop asking what if and start declaring even if I'm afraid, I'll move. Even if I don't feel ready, I'll obey. Even if it takes longer than I planned, I'll stay committed. Even if nobody applauds me, I'll keep building. Even if is not denial, it's determination. It's the mindset that says, my decision is bigger than my emotions. It's the understanding that courage is not the absence of fear. It's the refusal to let fear make the final call. When you say even if, you are announcing to your own soul that quitting is no longer a negotiation. Some of you are waiting for perfect conditions that will never exist. You're waiting for confidence to show up before you act. But confidence is born in motion, not in comfort. The moment you take the step you are avoiding, strength shows up to meet you there. Even if your hands are shaking, even if your voice trembles, even if your past is loud, forward is still the right direction. Faith has always worked this way. Even if the door doesn't open immediately, I'll keep knocking. Even if the ground looks dry, I'll keep planting. Even if I don't see results yet, I'll keep showing up. Because growth is not a moment, it's a mindset, and breakthroughs rarely announce themselves in advance. When you shift from what if to even if, you stop living as a hostage to outcomes and start living as a steward of purpose. You realize that success is not guaranteed comfort, but obedience in the face of uncertainty. And when you make peace with the possibility of struggle, struggle loses its power to stop you. So hear this clearly. Fear may speak, but it no longer decides. Doubt may knock, but it doesn't get to stay. Even if it's hard, even if it's lonely, even if it costs you more than you expected, you are still moving forward. And that one mindset shift is the reason everything else will begin to change. Some of you have been measuring your value by your victories and punishing yourself for your losses, and you don't even realize how heavy that scale has become. You celebrate yourself when things go right and question your worth when things fall apart. When the results look good, you feel confident. When they don't, you shrink, you withdraw, you start doubting who you are. But hear me clearly, your life was never meant to be graded by outcomes alone. The danger of tying your worth to results is that results are unstable. They rise and fall. They change with seasons, with timing, with people, with circumstances you cannot control. If your confidence is built on results, then every setback becomes a personal attack. Every delay feels like rejection. Every failure sounds like a verdict on your identity, and that is too much power to give to temporary moments. You are more than what you produce. You are more than what people applaud. You are more than what worked or didn't work last time. Your value was established before you ever succeeded at anything, before the plan came together, before the opportunity opened, before you proved yourself to anyone. Purpose always comes before performance, and identity always comes before assignment. Some of you stopped trying not because you failed, but because you believed the failure defined you. You didn't just say, "That didn't work." You said, "I don't work." And that lie quietly rewrote how you see yourself. You started playing small, avoiding risk, settling for less, not because you lacked potential, but because you forgot who you were without the scoreboard. When you detach your worth from your results, something powerful happens. You become resilient. You stop breaking every time something doesn't go your way. You learn how to lose without losing yourself. You learn how to wait without hating yourself. You learn how to grow without constantly questioning your value. And that stability is dangerous to fear because fear feeds on insecurity. Results are feedback, not identity. They are information, not definition. They tell you what needs to be adjusted, not who needs to be erased. When you understand this, failure becomes a teacher instead of a prison. Delay becomes preparation instead of punishment. Silence becomes development instead of abandonment. In 2026, the mindset shift is this: I am still valuable while I'm becoming. I am still called while I'm learning. I am still chosen while I'm struggling. I don't need everything to work out to know I matter. I don't need constant wins to justify my existence. I don't need approval to validate my purpose. When you stop attaching your worth to outcomes, you stop begging for affirmation and start walking with authority. You show up differently. You try again without shame. You take feedback without collapsing. You move forward without dragging yesterday's disappointment into today's assignment. And that's when everything changes. Because when your confidence is rooted in identity instead of results, no setback can disqualify you, no delay can derail you, and no failure can silence what you were born to do. Some of you have been confusing peace with comfort and safety with obedience, and that confusion has quietly stalled your growth. You've been asking for ease, asking for familiarity, asking for things to feel secure before you move. But comfort has a voice, and that voice always says, stay where you are. Don't risk too much. Don't stretch too far. Don't disrupt what you already know. Comfort will never argue loudly, but it will slowly negotiate your destiny down to something manageable instead of something meaningful. Calling, on the other hand, doesn't whisper convenience. It speaks in disruption. It pulls you toward places that demand more than you feel ready to give. It asks you to leave rooms where you're celebrated and step into spaces where you'll be stretched. And the reason comfort feels so convincing is because it doesn't look like rebellion. It looks like wisdom. It looks like patience. It looks like being responsible. But many times, it's just fear wearing a respectable suit. You weren't created to live a life that only protects you. You were created to live a life that develops you. And development always costs something. It costs familiarity. It costs applause. It costs certainty. Growth requires you to choose purpose over preference, and that choice will make you uncomfortable long before it makes you successful. Some of you know exactly what you're called to do, but you've been delaying it because it doesn't fit neatly into your current routine. It would disrupt relationships. It would stretch your capacity. It would force you to learn again, to fail again, to be seen trying again. And comfort keeps telling you, now is not the right time. But calling is asking, how many more years will you wait for permission you don't need? When you shift from comfort thinking to calling thinking, you stop asking what feels safe and start asking what feels necessary. You stop choosing what protects your ego and start choosing what grows your character. You understand that being uncomfortable doesn't mean you're out of alignment. Often, it means you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Every meaningful transition feels awkward at first. New levels always feel lonely before they feel rewarding. New responsibilities always feel heavy before they feel natural. And if you only move when it feels good, you will miss the very places that would have made you strong. Calling doesn't promise ease. It promises purpose. It doesn't guarantee applause. It guarantees growth. And the irony is this: the life you are most afraid to step into is often the life that will finally free you from feeling stuck. In 2026, the shift is choosing discomfort on purpose. Not recklessness, not chaos, but obedience that stretches you. The willingness to leave what works for what matters, to trade convenience for contribution. To understand that comfort may keep you calm, but calling will make you complete. And when you finally choose calling over comfort, you don't just change what you do, you change who you become. Some of you have been standing still, calling it wisdom, when in reality it's fear dressed up as patience. You've been telling yourself you're waiting on clarity, waiting on a sign, waiting on everything to make sense before you move. But clarity does not come from standing still, it comes from motion. You don't steer a parked car, and you don't discover direction by refusing to take a step. You've been asking for the full picture, but faith was never designed to give you the whole map. Faith gives you enough light for the next step, not the entire journey. And the reason some of you feel confused is not because the path is hidden, but because you've demanded certainty where trust is required. Waiting for clarity often feels responsible, but it slowly becomes disobedience when the instruction is already clear. You know what you're supposed to do, you just don't know how it's going to work out. And instead of moving with what you know, you freeze because you can't control what you don't know. But growth has never happened under total control. Some of you are afraid that if you move without clarity, you'll make the wrong decision. But the greater danger is making no decision at all. Indecision is still a decision, and it always chooses stagnation. While you wait, opportunities pass, confidence erodes, and fear gets stronger because fear thrives in delay. Movement is what unlocks understanding. When you step out, things begin to align. Resources appear, connections form, wisdom grows. What felt confusing from a distance becomes clear up close. But you have to be willing to walk into uncertainty long enough for clarity to catch up. Faith is not reckless. It's responsive. It responds to what is revealed now, not what might be revealed later. Obedience is rarely comfortable, but it is always productive. When you move in faith, you're not ignoring risk, you're refusing to be ruled by it. Some of you have already outgrown the place you're standing in, and your frustration is proof of it. That restlessness you feel isn't anxiety, it's a signal. It's your spirit telling you that staying still is costing you more than moving forward ever could. In 2026, the shift is releasing the need to understand everything before you act. You don't need full confidence, just enough courage to take the next step. You don't need all the answers, just the willingness to obey the one instruction you already have. When you move first, clarity follows. When you step out, strength shows up. When you act in faith, fear loses its grip, and you begin to realize that the breakthrough you were waiting on was never ahead of you. It was waiting on you to move. Some of you got discouraged, not because you were wrong, but because things got hard too quickly. You assumed that resistance meant you missed it, that the struggle was a signal to turn around, that the pressure was proof you were out of alignment. But resistance doesn't show up to stop what's insignificant. It shows up when something matters. Opposition is often confirmation that you're pushing against a boundary that was never meant to keep you small. Every meaningful shift attracts friction. The moment you decide to grow, to change, to break a cycle, resistance rises to meet you, not because you're failing, but because you're advancing. And if you misinterpret resistance, you'll retreat from the very thing that was about to reshape your life. Some of you started something bold, something honest, something necessary, and the pushback shocked you. People misunderstood you. Support disappeared. Progress slowed, and you thought maybe I should stop. But hear this clearly. The presence of resistance is not the absence of purpose. Often, it's the announcement of it. Resistance exposes what's valuable. Anything without worth is ignored. But the moment you challenge patterns, disrupt comfort, or step into purpose, opposition responds. That doesn't mean you're underqualified. It means you're threatening something that benefits from you staying the same. You have to learn the difference between correction and cancellation. Correction refines you. Cancellation tries to erase you. Resistance is not always a command to quit. Sometimes it's an invitation to strengthen your resolve. Pressure doesn't mean abandon the assignment. It means deepen your roots. Some of you expected confirmation to feel peaceful, but real confirmation often feels like conflict. It tests your endurance. It forces you to confront fear, insecurity, and doubt. It asks whether you believe in the call enough to endure the cost. And that's why many people stop, not because they can't continue, but because they weren't prepared for the weight of what they asked for. When you see resistance as confirmation, your posture changes. You stop panicking and start persevering. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what is this producing in me? You understand that resistance is shaping your discipline, sharpening your focus, and strengthening your character. In 2026, the shift is refusing to label every obstacle as a sign to quit. Some doors don't open easily because they're guarding something valuable. Some paths feel heavy because they're building capacity in you. And some battles show up not to defeat you, but to prove that you're ready. Resistance may slow you down, but it doesn't get to stop you. It may challenge you, but it doesn't cancel your calling. And when you stand firm instead of backing away, you'll realize that what tried to break you was actually preparing you to carry what's next. Some of you have been leaving doors cracked open, telling yourself you're being flexible, when in reality you've been giving yourself permission to escape. You say you're committed, but deep down you've kept a quiet exit plan in case it gets too hard, too slow, too lonely. And as long as quitting is an option, pressure will always push you toward it. You don't fail because you're incapable. You falter because you never fully decided. There is a difference between interest and decision. Interest tries until it gets tired. Decision stays when it gets painful. When you decide, you remove debate from the process. You stop renegotiating with fear every time circumstances shift. You stop asking how long this will take and start asking what it will require. Decision doesn't wait for motivation. It creates discipline. Some of you keep starting over not because you're meant to restart, but because you quit too soon. You left right before the breakthrough, walked away right before clarity, gave up right before momentum began to build. And each time you quit, it reinforces the lie that nothing ever works for you, when the truth is you never stayed long enough to see it work. When quitting is no longer an option, your creativity increases. Your resilience deepens. You stop looking for shortcuts and start building stamina. You figure things out because you have to. You adapt because retreat is off the table. Pressure no longer scares you, it focuses you. Deciding doesn't mean the road gets easier. It means you get stronger. It means when doubt shows up, it doesn't get a vote. When discouragement whispers, it doesn't get to lead. You feel the fear, but you move anyway. You feel the exhaustion, but you stay the course. Commitment doesn't remove pain, it gives pain a purpose. Some of you are waiting to feel certain before you decide, but certainty often comes after commitment, not before it. You don't wake up one day suddenly convinced. You become convinced by showing up again and again. Consistency builds confidence. Endurance produces belief. In 2026, the shift is making an internal declaration that this is no longer optional. You may adjust the strategy, but you will not abandon the assignment. You may rest, but you will not retreat. You may stumble, but you will not turn back, because quitting is no longer how this story ends. When you decide at that level, circumstances lose their power over you. Delays don't derail you. Opposition doesn't intimidate you. Slow progress doesn't discourage you. You stop living reactively and start living deliberately, and that's when momentum shows up. Not because everything suddenly works, but because you finally refuse to walk away. When quitting is removed from the table, growth becomes inevitable. Breakthrough becomes a matter of time, and the life you've been hoping for finally has space to meet someone who decided to stay. Hear me as I close this. 2026 is not waiting on your resources, your connections, or your perfect plan. It's waiting on your decision. You've survived too much to think small now. You've come too far to turn back now. You didn't endure the pressure just to settle for potential you never touched. This is the year you stop negotiating with fear. The year you stop carrying old thinking into a new season. The year you stand up, square your shoulders, and declare, I will not live beneath what I've been called to. Let the excuses fall. Let the doubt be silenced. Let the old mindset die right here. Because when your thinking changes, your direction changes. When your direction changes, your discipline changes. And when your discipline changes, your life follows. So step into 2026 with a new mind, a fixed resolve, and an unbreakable spirit. Even if it's hard, even if it's lonely, even if it costs you comfort, you are not behind. You are not disqualified. You are not done. This is your moment. This is your shift. And after tonight, nothing stays the same.